I don't either.
Like, what kind of long jump Carl Lewis leap are we making here? They traded up to wreck his career. That's how diabolical the Browns are. They traded up so that they could say, screw the Sanders family. We're going to
show him.
Yeah, we're going to run a ball into the ground. What he's very clearly saying for anybody with a lick of common sense is when they left the building Friday night, when he kept falling and kept falling and kept falling on Saturday, regardless of whose decision it was to move up to get him, as an organization, they made the decision to move up to get him, not because they're trying to tank this poor kid's career, because they have a job open at quarterback.
He could be speaking to the city of Cleveland as if to say, don't blame me for this one. That is the man that gave Deshaun Watson guaranteed $230 million, which right now is going down as arguably the worst trade in NFL.
A ton of snaps in this preseason, and let's see what he can do. But the idea that they're trying to sabotage him is so stupid that I just can't even, I'm just done. I can't even wrap my head around it. And to try and to manipulate what he said into some idea that he didn't want, or that they didn't want, to try and to manipulate what he said into some idea that he didn't want, or that they didn't want him. Like, I just don't understand how you can make that. I would love someone to logically explain it to me.
He could be speaking to the city of Cleveland as if to say, don't blame me for this one. That is the man that gave Deshaun Watson guaranteed $230 million, which right now is going down as arguably the worst trade in NFL history.
If you'd have told me, let's see, we picked him on Saturday, right? Friday night driving home, y'all are going to pick Shedeur, I would say that's not happening. But we had a conversation early that morning, and then we had a conversation later that day. I think we had the right people involved in the conversation. At the end of the day, that's Andrew Berry's call. Andrew made the call to pick Shedeur.
Understand what's going on here. That's why Haslam was in his car on a Friday talking about, I can't see it happening.
Hey, man, he's unflappable. We have been through so much as a family, as athletes, that he is prepared for everything. The only thing that really hurt me, when they started the line and saying he wasn't prepared or he was this or he came in with headphones on. I know my sheep. I know my son. I know what I raised. I know better than that. Shedeur ain't never.
One, he has to have opportunity.
He get opportunity.
To do that. Well, okay.
Opportunity.
His own father said he didn't want him to come to training camp because he doesn't get any reps. Okay? His own father said he doesn't want me to come to training camp because he said, Dad, I'm getting maybe 3 or 4 reps of practice.
What if I told you that an NFL owner just admitted on camera to deliberately sabotaging one of the most talented quarterbacks to enter the league in years? What if I told you this isn't just about football, this is personal revenge against a legendary father trying to protect his son? And what if I told you that multiple NFL experts are now calling this the most disgusting display of front office manipulation they've ever witnessed? Buckle up, because what you're about to hear about Shedeur Sanders and the Cleveland Browns will make your blood boil. This isn't just sports drama, this is a calculated attack that goes deeper than you think. Let me paint you a picture of what's really happening in Cleveland right now. Shedeur Sanders, arguably the most NFL-ready quarterback prospect we've seen in years, is getting exactly 4 reps per day in Browns training camp. 4. Let that sink in for a moment. Tom Brady's backup gets more reps than that. Practice squad players get more opportunities than that. But here's where it gets absolutely insane. Jimmy Haslam, the Browns owner, went on record saying that if you had told him on Friday night that they'd be picking Shedeur Sanders, he would have said, "That's not happening." Think about the audacity of that statement. This is a man who just publicly admitted that he was actively working against drafting one of his own players. Now, I want you to understand something crucial here. This isn't just bad management. This is psychological warfare. When an owner makes statements like this, it sends a message throughout the entire organization. It tells coaches, coordinators, and position coaches that this player doesn't have backing from the top. It creates an environment where Shedeur is fighting an uphill battle before he even steps on the field. Jason Lloyd, who's been covering the Browns for years, didn't mince words when he called this out. He said what we're all thinking: this is sabotage, plain and simple. Lloyd pointed out that Shedeur has been working tirelessly, showing up every single day, putting in maximum effort despite getting minimal opportunities, yet somehow players like Dylan Gabriel are getting priority over him on the depth chart. But here's what makes this even more disturbing. Lloyd specifically called out Haslam for trying to manipulate the narrative. Think about this. You have a rookie quarterback who's doing everything right, working harder than anyone else, and your own owner is publicly undermining him. That's not just unprofessional, that's cruel. The most telling part, Haslam's trying to distance himself from the decision entirely. He's pointing fingers at Andrew Barry, the general manager, saying it was Andrew's call. But we all know how NFL organizations work. General managers don't make moves that owners fundamentally oppose, especially not in Cleveland, where Haslam has a history of meddling in football operations. This is the same owner who guaranteed Deshaun Watson $230 million, a move that's already being called one of the worst trades in NFL history. The same owner who's presided over decades of quarterback failures in Cleveland, and now when they finally have a legitimate talent at the position, he's actively working against him. What's happening to Shedeur Sanders isn't just about football strategy or depth chart politics. This is about an organization that's so dysfunctional, so toxic from the top down, that they're willing to destroy a young man's career to prove a point. And that point? We'll get to that in just a moment because it's even more sinister than you think. Now we're getting to the heart of this controversy, and this is where things get really dark. Stephen A. Smith didn't just criticize the Browns, he exposed what he believes is the real motivation behind this sabotage. According to Stephen A., this isn't about Shedeur Sanders at all. This is about sending a message to his father, Deion Sanders. Let me break this down for you because it's absolutely chilling. Stephen A. Smith believes that certain people in the NFL, including Jimmy Haslam, orchestrated Shedeur's fall to the 5th round as a direct attack on Coach Prime. Think about that for a second. We're talking about grown men in positions of power using a young athlete as a pawn in their personal vendetta against his father. Stephen A. was crystal clear about this. This was a targeted move, a message aimed directly at Deion Sanders, and the message will come after your son to get to you. That's not just sports analysis, that's an accusation of coordinated character assassination. Stephen A. is essentially saying that multiple NFL decision-makers conspired to damage Shedeur's draft stock and career prospects. But here's what makes Stephen A.'s theory so compelling: the football doesn't add up any other way. There was absolutely no legitimate reason for a quarterback with Shedeur's talent, college production, and NFL readiness to fall to the 5th round. None. His college stats were elite, his arm talent is undeniable, and his football IQ is off the charts. So why did he fall so far? Stephen A. believes it's because certain people in the league made damn sure he would. That's a serious accusation. He's essentially saying there was a coordinated effort across multiple organizations to blackball Shedeur Sanders because of who his father is. And when you look at Haslam's comments in that context, they become even more damning. When he said he couldn't see them picking Shedeur on Friday night, Stephen A. interpreted that as evidence of premeditation. This wasn't a casual comment. This was Haslam revealing that he was part of the plan to keep Shedeur off NFL rosters. The most disturbing part of this theory is how it explains everything else we're seeing. Why is Shedeur only getting 4 reps per day? Why are less talented quarterbacks getting priority over him? Why is the owner publicly undermining him? If Stephen A. is right, it's because the sabotage didn't end with the draft. It's continuing in Cleveland. Think about the psychological impact this has on a young man who's done nothing wrong except be born to a famous father. Shedeur Sanders has worked his entire life to get to this point, and now he's being punished for something completely outside his control. This isn't just about football anymore. If Stephen A. Smith is right, we're witnessing one of the most disgusting displays of abuse of power in professional sports history. And the worst part, Shedeur is just the collateral damage in a war he never asked to be part of. What's happening right now in the sports media world is unprecedented. We're seeing a coordinated uprising of NFL experts, analysts, and insiders who are absolutely fed up with what they're witnessing in Cleveland. This isn't just one person speaking out, this is a movement, and it's gaining momentum by the day. Lewis Riddick came in swinging, and he didn't hold anything back. Riddick, who's been around the NFL for decades as both a player and executive, tore apart Haslam's narrative piece by piece. But what Riddick revealed next stopped everyone in their tracks. He pointed out something that nobody else had mentioned, something so damning that it changed the entire conversation. Shedeur Sanders told his own father not to come to training camp. Let that sink in for a moment. A rookie quarterback who should be excited to have his Hall of Fame father watching him practice specifically asked Deion to stay away. Why? Because he was embarrassed by how little opportunity he was getting. 4 reps per practice. 4. Riddick looked straight into the camera and asked the question that nobody in Cleveland wants to answer, is that fair? But he didn't stop there. He explained something that casual fans might not understand about how the NFL really works. When you're drafted as low as Shedeur was, you don't get chances handed to you. You only survive if someone in the building is fighting for you, advocating for you, and standing on tables in meetings saying, this kid belongs here. But here's the problem. Nobody knows who in the Browns organization actually wanted Shedeur. Haslam is distancing himself from the decision. The coaching staff seems indifferent. The front office is staying quiet. That leaves Shedeur in the worst possible position. A player with no organizational backing trying to prove himself with minimal opportunities. Riddick's frustration was palpable because he understands what this means for Shedeur's future. In the NFL, if no one's advocating for you, you get left behind. Period. It doesn't matter how talented you are, how hard you work, or how much potential you have. Without organizational support, you're fighting a losing battle. But Riddick wasn't the only expert speaking out. Garrett Bush offered a different perspective, but one that was equally damning for the Browns. Bush argued that while you can't truly sabotage a talent like Shedeur long-term, Haslam's comments are going to backfire spectacularly. According to Bush, fans will start demanding answers, pressure will build, and eventually the Browns will be forced to give Shedeur real opportunities. Bush's point is crucial because it highlights the impossible position the Browns have put themselves in. They can't keep a quarterback of Shedeur's caliber buried forever without facing serious backlash from fans, media, and potentially even other players in the locker room. What we're witnessing is a perfect storm of expert opinion converging on one undeniable truth. The Cleveland Browns are mishandling one of the most promising quarterback prospects they've had in years, and it's not by accident. It's systematic, it's intentional, and it's about to blow up in their faces. When Deion Sanders finally broke his silence about his son's situation, his words carried the weight of a father's pain and a legend's wisdom. Coach Prime didn't just defend Shedeur, he exposed the lies that have been spread about his son and revealed the true character of the young man he raised. The most powerful moment came when Deion addressed the false narratives that have been circulating about Shedeur's preparation and attitude. All of that negative stuff against him is a lie, Deion said with the conviction of a father who knows his son better than anyone. The only thing that really hurt me is when they started lying, saying he wasn't prepared or he came in with headphones on. I know my son. I know what I raised. Think about what Deion is saying here. He's not just defending his son's football ability, he's defending his character, his work ethic, his preparation. These are attacks on Shedeur as a person, not just as a player. And for a father who's dedicated his life to raising his children with the right values, these lies cut deep. But here's what makes Deion's response so powerful. He's speaking from experience. We have been through so much as a family, as athletes, that he is prepared for everything, Deion explained. This isn't just a proud father talking. This is a man who's faced adversity at the highest levels of professional sports, who's dealt with media scrutiny, who's overcome obstacles that would break most people. Deion knows what it takes to succeed in hostile environments because he's done it himself. He played in the NFL when the spotlight was just as bright, when the pressure was just as intense. And he's passed that mental toughness, that unflappable nature, down to his son. He's unflappable, Deion said, and those words carry tremendous weight. In a league where mental toughness often matters more than physical ability, where the pressure can crush even the most talented players, having an unflappable mindset is invaluable. But perhaps the most telling part of Deion's response was what he didn't say. He didn't attack the Browns organization directly. He didn't call out Jimmy Haslam by name. He didn't engage in the back and forth that the media was hoping for. Instead, he focused on what he knows to be true about his son. That restraint, that dignity in the face of what many are calling a coordinated attack on his family, shows the class that Deion has always carried himself with. But make no mistake, his message was clear. The narratives being spread about Shedeur are false. And anyone who knows the Sanders family knows better. The fact that Shedeur asked his father not to come to training camp speaks volumes about the young man's character. He didn't want his father to see him being disrespected. He didn't want to put Deion in a position where he might feel compelled to intervene. That's not the behavior of an entitled, unprepared player. That's the behavior of a mature young man trying to handle a difficult situation with dignity. Deion's response reminds us that behind all the politics and manipulation, there's a real family dealing with real pain. And that family deserves better. What we're witnessing with Shedeur Sanders and the Cleveland Browns isn't just a sports story. It's a cautionary tale about power abuse and the human cost of organizational dysfunction. This situation has exposed something rotten at the core of how some NFL franchises operate, and the implications go far beyond one player or one team. Let's be clear about what's at stake here. We're not just talking about Shedeur's career, though that's obviously important. We're talking about a precedent that could affect every young player who enters the NFL. If organizations can openly sabotage players they don't want, if owners can publicly undermine their own draft picks, if talented athletes can be buried because of personal vendettas against their families, then what does that say about the integrity of the league? The pressure is building on multiple fronts, and it's only going to get worse for the Browns. Fans are starting to ask questions. Media members are digging deeper. Other players around the league are watching to see how this plays out. The Browns have put themselves in an impossible position where they either have to give Shedeur real opportunities or face continued scrutiny about their motives. But here's what makes this situation even more volatile. The Browns can't afford to be wrong about Shedeur. If he goes to another team and succeeds, if he becomes the quarterback that many experts believe he can be, then Cleveland will have to answer for why they wasted that opportunity. Given their history of quarterback failures, that's not a conversation they want to have. The financial implications are staggering too. The Browns are paying Deshaun Watson guaranteed money that could cripple their salary cap for years. Meanwhile, they have a rookie quarterback on a cheap contract who could potentially solve their problems, and they're refusing to give him a real chance. From a business standpoint, it makes no sense. What's most disturbing is how this reflects on the NFL as a whole. If Stephen A. Smith is right about there being a coordinated effort to damage Shedeur's draft stock, then we're talking about a level of collusion and manipulation that should concern every fan of the sport. The draft is supposed to be about talent evaluation and team building, not personal vendettas and power plays. The resolution of this situation will send a message to every young athlete watching. Will talent and hard work be rewarded, or will politics and personal grudges determine careers? Will organizations be held accountable for their treatment of players, or will they be allowed to operate with impunity? As this story continues to unfold, one thing is certain. The spotlight on Cleveland is only going to get brighter. The Browns have created a situation where they can't win. If they continue to bury Shedeur, they'll face increasing criticism and potential backlash from fans. If they give him opportunities and he succeeds, they'll have to explain why it took so long. The clock is ticking, and the pressure is mounting. The question isn't whether this situation will explode, it's when and how much damage it will do to everyone involved. So here's my question for you. How long can the Browns keep this charade going? How long before the fans demand answers? How long before other players start speaking out? And most importantly, how long before Shedeur Sanders gets the opportunity he's earned? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think this is really about sabotage, or is there something else going on? And make sure you subscribe, because this story is far from over. And when it explodes, you're going to want to be here for every single update. Trust me, what's coming next is going to shock you even more than what you just heard.